William, congratulations on getting in, but unfortunately, we can't afford the tuition. I couldn't believe what my husband just said, and instinctively stood up from my chair with force. Wait a minute! That's ridiculous! Why can't we afford the tuition? William, our son, remained seated and expressionless, not moving an inch. That's because I didn't expect this to happen. I used all of it for Charlotte's beauty treatments. Makeup and fashion cost a lot, you know. As Eric said this, turning his back to us and changing his clothes, he showed no sign of remorse. I felt all the hardships we had endured flooding back to me. After all the control we had over William, the idea of spending money on a niece was unbearable. I have savings too. I've been saving desperately because you told me to. But when Eric heard this, he burst out laughing. Oh, you mean the one hidden in that room? I spent all of it on Charlotte as well. Too bad. That can't be. You're lying. It has to be a lie. It's your fault, really. Using the same PIN as our usual bank account. Of course I'd use it. I felt a chill run through my body. I never thought Eric would find it, so I had set the same PIN as our joint bank account. But now that he knew, it didn't change the fact that it was my money. The thought of him using it too was beyond forgiveness. Unable to hold back, I lunged at Eric. But just before I could reach him, William stood up from his chair and grabbed my arm, stopping me. Let go! William, please let me go. Mom, it's okay, because... His whisper in my ear made me stop. Feeling reassured by William's words, I proceeded with the enrollment process. My name is Cindy. After graduating from a beauty school, I started working at a local salon. Once I was asked to do hair for a wedding attendee. That's where I met Eric. I wasn't particularly focused on my work, but it seemed Eric had fallen for me at first sight. As he was leaving, he handed me a piece of paper with his contact information. Sorry if this is a bother, but please contact me if you feel like it. It wasn't an unusual occurrence in my line of work. I was also thinking about getting married at the time, so I took it as a good opportunity and started dating him. Things went smoothly, and eventually, I married Eric. Our married life was very happy, but I had one particular worry. It was about my relationship with my mother-in-law, Bess. Bess was quite fond of Eric's sister-in-law, Diana, and she always compared me with Diana. However, aside from that, things were smooth. A year after our marriage, Diana gave birth to Charlotte, and shortly after, I had William. Later, a party was held at Eric's family home to introduce Charlotte and William. At the party, everyone's attention was on Charlotte. Despite being a baby, Charlotte had distinct features, and it was clear she would grow up to be beautiful. Additionally, she resembled Eric somewhat, so everyone teased, saying she was Eric's child. I found these comments unpleasant. Even if she was a relative's child, being told she looked like my husband didn't sit well with me. But oblivious to how I felt, Bess was smitten with Charlotte. She's such a cute child. I'm excited for her future. Unlike the other one, who's just so-so. Saying this, she glanced at William and scoffed. The other relatives chuckled along. Well, the other one doesn't matter. More importantly, Bess, I want to make this child a model. Hearing this, Bess's face lit up. A model? That's a great idea. But how? Diana, looking smug, replied to her question. Don't worry. I have experience as a model, so I have a lot of contacts in the industry. Indeed, Diana had been a magazine model during her college days. She wasn't very famous, but her experience was significant. Her effortless poise and fashion sense were evident. Working in a beauty salon, I knew Diana was not just all talk. That's reassuring to know. Model? You mean like those on TV, right? Yes, some of them even become actresses. If she becomes a model, we'll all be celebrities. At those words, the relatives suddenly got excited. Everyone started showering Charlotte with hopeful words. Even Eric joined in, praising Diana. Unnoticed by anyone, I was in a corner of the room, holding William. William, innocently smiling, was looking at my face. Suddenly, I felt so sorry for William that I almost burst into tears. Charlotte seemed very happy, enjoying all the attention. Well, everyone, children don't grow up overnight. Let's look forward to their future. I understand. If you need money, just say so. I'll pay any amount. Thank you, Bess. From that point on, our family was practically ignored by the relatives. Struggling with the grandchild favoritism towards Charlotte, I worked hard every day, raising William. Eric, crucially, was no help with childcare at all. Please, Eric, spend some time with William. It's not fair to him. No matter how desperately I pleaded, Eric wouldn't listen. Stop nagging. I'm busy with work. You alone should be enough to take care of him. That's what Eric would always say, shoving everything onto me and pretending not to care. I regretted marrying Eric, but I lacked the courage to divorce him. The only ones who reached out to help me were my parents back home. They took care of William when I really couldn't, and they loved him dearly. Without their support, I would have probably broken down. Somehow, I managed to raise William while holding on. Then, 10 years later, William grew up and became a middle schooler. Eric was still indifferent to parenting, but one day he suddenly came home from work and said he had something to tell me. Is William still at school? When is he coming back? He'll be back soon. Is something wrong? The way Eric asked about William gave me a bad feeling. I want him to aim for medical school. Tell him to study with that in mind. I was shocked by Eric's cold words. Wait a minute. What are you suddenly saying? Don't decide his future for him. Annoyed by my plea, Eric clicked his tongue loudly. Listen, I'm his father. You have no right to complain. Got it? I can't accept that. You've never been involved in raising him. Shut up! That's your role, isn't it? Do you even earn enough to have a say? No matter what Eric said, I couldn't back down. Then at least tell me why medical school. That's obvious. It's to impress my parents. I was stunned by his response. What did he think of his own child? But Eric continued without caring about me. Listen, we're always compared to my brother's family. Charlotte is beautiful, and William, he's got nothing going for him. He kept on spewing harsh words, probably venting his frustrations. It's embarrassing. So at least he needs to be smart. Understand now! I clenched my fists tightly, unable to say anything. It felt like a knife was stabbing my heart. Well, that's it. I'll tell William. He's going to study hard from now on, so don't complain. With that, he left the room. I was worried about my son, but I couldn't defy Eric. I secretly resolved to support William as best as I could. Since then, William's days were filled with studying. He spent late nights at tutoring after school and on weekends. A tutor found by Eric would come to teach him. He wasn't allowed any playtime other than studying, and he couldn't even fully participate in school events. Whenever William scored slightly low, Eric would scold him mercilessly. Thanks to all his effort, William graduated middle school with the top grades and got into a renowned preparatory school in the state. Eric, without easing his strictness, ordered me to save money. Hey you, save the money properly. After all, tuition is expensive, so no luxury. Got it? Please, let's stop this. This isn't good for anyone. Please reconsider. I desperately tried to stop Eric, but he wouldn't listen. Shut up! Didn't I tell you not to complain? If you keep complaining, I'll kick you out of the house. With that, I couldn't fight back. However, it was clear that William was struggling. At this rate, he might break down. When Eric wasn't around, I took the chance to talk to William. William, are you okay? I have something I want to talk to you about. William was solving problems at his desk. Without stopping, he glanced at me as I entered his room. I'm okay now, but I can't talk long. I have to solve all of this by tomorrow. I see, then I'll make it quick. Eric says you should go to medical school, but that's not the only option. If there's something else you want to do, it's okay to pursue that. Hearing my words, William gave a gentle smile. Thanks, Mom. I'm glad you said that, but I'll aim for medical school. It might make Dad approve and be kinder to you. His kindness nearly brought tears to my eyes. I felt ashamed of myself for yielding to Eric. Okay, I understand, but don't hesitate to tell me if it gets too hard. I'm on your side, William. Don't forget that. I got it, Mom. I won't keep it all to myself. Then, good luck with the rest. After saying that, I left William's room and quietly cried in the living room, not wanting William to hear and worry. In high school, William maintained top grades and applied to the State University's medical school. Finally, the day of the results arrived. When the time came, William checked his acceptance online. Hesitantly looking at the screen, his face brightened. I did it! Mom, I did it! I got in! Congratulations, William! We cried tears of joy together. I immediately contacted Eric and went out to shop for a celebration. That evening, the dinner table was laden with extravagant dishes. I talked about our hardships with William, waiting for Eric to return. Eric came back from work past 8 p.m., not looking too pleased. What's wrong? William got into medical school. Eric seemed uncomfortable. I never thought he'd actually get in, he muttered to himself while taking off his suit jacket. What are you talking about? He worked so hard, it's only natural. Ignoring my confusion, Eric said something unbelievable to William. Congratulations on your acceptance, William, but unfortunately, we can't afford the tuition. I instinctively stood up from my chair with force. Wait a minute, that's ridiculous! Why can't we afford the tuition? William remained seated, expressionless, not moving. That's because I never expected this to happen, so I used it all. On what? For Charlotte's beauty treatments. She's going into modeling seriously now. Makeup, fashion, it all costs money, you know. Can't be helped. Turning his back to us and changing his clothes, Eric spoke without a hint of remorse. I felt all the hardships we had endured resurfacing. I couldn't forgive him for spending money on Charlotte after being so strict with William. Enough is enough! What are we going to do now? Shut up! Don't you dare lecture me! Eric then glared at William and yelled. What are you looking at? Didn't you hear? Figure out your tuition yourself. Don't rely on your parents. Yes, I understand. I'll take care of it myself. William's face remained expressionless. It's okay, William. You don't have to worry. I stood in front of Eric to protect William. I have savings too. I've been saving desperately because you told me to. But when Eric heard this, he burst into loud laughter. Oh, you mean the one hidden in that room? I used all of it on Charlotte. Too bad. That can't be. You're lying. It has to be a lie. If you think it's a lie, go check for yourself. It's your fault anyway, using the same PIN as our usual bank account. Of course I'd use it. I felt a chill run through my body. I never thought Eric would find out about it since I used the same PIN as our joint bank account. But now that he knew, it didn't change the fact that it was my money. Using it like that was unforgivable. I can't believe you! I can't forgive you anymore! Go ahead, say what you want to say. I couldn't hold back and lunged at Eric. But just before I could reach him, William stood up from his chair and grabbed my arm, stopping me. Let go, William. Please let me go. Mom, it's okay, because... Hearing his whisper, I stopped moving. Eric, seemingly oblivious to our conversation, was smirking nastily. Good job, William. Really, you should learn from your son. Talking back is useless. Eric, laughing at us, went to take a shower. Feeling reassured by William's words, I proceeded with the enrollment process. William had seen me struggling and had been making his own plans for a while. Initially, he had taken a part-time job, secretly to avoid Eric's notice. I was surprised to hear he managed that amidst his busy schedule, but the amount a student could earn was minimal. Soon, William realized how hard it was to earn money and consulted my parents. My father had worked in finance, so he knew a lot about that field. William apparently learned ways to earn money from my father. Unbeknownst to me, even with as little as $60, one could start investing. Being smart, William must have quickly learned and applied the techniques. He invested the money he earned from part-time work and gradually increased his assets. Though he earned money, it wasn't a large amount at once, so Eric was unaware of its existence. Over the 3 years of high school, William managed to save enough for university entrance fees. I can't even imagine how much effort it took to save that much. However, William had kept this from everyone except my parents. Eric's parents never even gave William a Christmas gift. Eric always favored Charlotte and spent money on her. The tuition and educational expenses were all covered by the money I earned. If Eric knew William was earning money, he would have taken it immediately. That's why we kept it secret until the last moment. I was again amazed by William's intelligence and felt the need to take action myself. I decided to divorce Eric, realizing that staying with him would only bring unhappiness to me and William. Later, William and Charlotte graduated from high school. A family-in-law gathering was organized to celebrate their graduation, which had been rare. Eric's parents, probably surprised that William got into medical school, praised him, which made me happy. But I wasn't too carried away. I was vigilant, not wanting to miss this chance. The celebration ended on a high note, and it was agreed to meet again on Memorial Day in May. Time flew by as I prepared, and before I knew it, the day arrived. This was my only chance. I brought the diary I had been keeping and the DNA test results. What I was about to do couldn't be shown to the two of them. I asked William to take Charlotte somewhere else to play, and then in front of the relatives, I declared my intent to divorce. Everyone, please listen. I've decided to divorce Eric. My unexpected announcement stunned the relatives. Eric dropped his fork in shock. You? Divorce? What are you suddenly talking about? That's absurd, even as a joke. Another relative commented. I placed the bundle of diaries on the table. Everything that's been done to me is written here. If you want to know why, just read this. Eric slammed the diary bundle angrily. This is nonsense! Just a bunch of complaints. What's the point? The diaries scattered across the table. The relatives began to pick them up curiously, murmuring among themselves. Ben read the diary with apparent interest. You haven't changed since we were kids. Just as terrible. At Ben's words, Eric slammed the table in anger. Now even my brother mocks me? What's written there is all lies, Cindy. You think you can get away with this? But I couldn't back down, not for William's future. I placed the DNA test results on the table for everyone to see. Eric turned pale upon seeing them and tried to hide them, but before he could, Ben snatched them up. Hey, don't hide it now. Might as well clear everything up, right? Ben read the DNA test results with a smirk, but as he read on, his smile faded. His hands trembled slightly holding the report, his eyes unable to focus. Cindy, what does this mean? He asked, his voice shaking. When William enrolled in school, we gathered, right? That's when I took Eric and Charlotte's forks and had a DNA test done. The results show they are father and daughter. Diana, hearing this, covered her mouth in shock. The relatives erupted into chaos, overwhelmed by the unexpected revelation. Cindy, isn't this going too far? What basis do you have for doing this? I explained to everyone the reasons for my suspicions. I always thought it was strange. Eric always favored Charlotte over William. And Charlotte looks so much like Eric. That's why I thought they were having an affair. Diana glared at me and threw a diary at me. Don't talk nonsense. That's just an accusation. That's why I brought proof. I'm fed up with this favoritism towards Charlotte. I'll take this chance to cut ties with you all. My declaration of cutting ties enraged the relatives. The parents-in-law were particularly furious. How can you do this? William getting into medical school is our pride. And now you talk of cutting ties? What will the neighbors say if they find out? I listened to the parents-in-law's words with a cold heart. They had always favored Charlotte and done nothing for William. And now, just because he got into medical school, they react like this. It's too convenient for you. I don't care about your concerns. What about Eric and Diana? All eyes turned to Eric and Diana. This is a fake. They're just trying to bring us down because they're jealous. Eric joined in desperately. Just like Diana said. Brother, believe me. I wouldn't do such a thing. Besides, the DNA was taken without consent. It's not valid evidence. The relatives agreed with Eric and started blaming us. Cindy, you have done something terrible. This isn't a matter to be taken lightly. Admit it now, apologize with him, and we'll forget this happened. I maintained a firm and resolute demeanor. Unfortunately, that DNA test result is unquestionably genuine, so I have no reason to apologize. My firm stance irritated Ben, who then glared at Eric. You always look down on us. Come on, Eric, say something. You're responsible too, aren't you? If you have complaints, keep them to yourself until we're home. Just apologize now. I'm in trouble if this continues. Eric tried to calm me down with his self-interested, gentle tone. If you keep insisting it's fake, why not do another DNA test with Ben, Eric, and Charlotte? That should reassure you, Ben. Stop this nonsense now! Diana burst out angrily. Ben restrained her with a hand. Indeed, we need clarity. Let's do the test again. However, Eric and Diana exchanged uneasy glances. Mike, my father-in-law, apparently oblivious, slammed the table. Enough! Cindy, I'm going to sue you for defamation. You'll pay a hefty compensation. Now leave! After that, I left the scene. Later, Mike arranged for Eric and Charlotte to undergo DNA testing, convinced my accusation was false. He hired expensive lawyers, desperate to force me to apologize. Then, a week later, we gathered again at the in-laws' house. Mike held the envelope containing the new DNA results. Everyone is here. Let's open this. He began reading the test results. Bess, convinced of my lie, smirked maliciously. Ready to apologize, Sydney? Ben glared at me, arms crossed, but Mike didn't speak. His face turned red as he continued to read. Bess, puzzled by Mike's silence, just looked at him. Mike, what's taking so long? Just tell us the results. Ben looked anxious. Mike sighed deeply and placed the test results on the table. Charlotte and Eric are indeed father and daughter. Bess screamed in shock. Does that mean Diana and Eric really had an affair? Ben, too angry to speak, clenched his fists. Eric, explain yourself. Make it convincing. Mike's forehead was lined with anger. Beside a sweating, downcast Eric, Diana covered her face and leaned on the table. An awkward silence ensued, finally broken by Diana. It's not my fault. Eric is to blame. She tearfully recounted the affair. How she felt lonely at the start of her marriage, with Ben being so busy. How she became close to Eric after confiding in him. And how they conspired to keep Charlotte's parentage a secret. Hearing this, Ben lunged at Eric. You! How could you act so normal all this time? You must have been laughing at me inside. Eric, being shaken by Ben, desperately made excuses. I wasn't laughing at you. It's the devil's fault. I respect you, brother. I loved Charlotte and felt responsible for her, so I decided to raise her properly. Hearing all this, I sighed deeply. It wasn't anger I felt, but a sense of pity. Mike and Bess looked utterly disillusioned by their son's disgraceful behavior. Absolutely disgraceful. Diana, we're getting divorced. Pack your things and leave once we get home. Diana looked up and clung to Ben. Wait, it really was the devil's fault. I love you. But Ben looked at her with contempt. Maybe you do, but I can't love you anymore. At that, Diana let out a moan and crumbled to the floor. Mike watched her coldly. This is unprecedented. Eric, Diana, you are a disgrace to our family. Never show your faces to me again. Thus, Eric, Diana, and Charlotte were disowned. I tried to proceed with divorcing Eric, but he was obstinate, making it difficult to reach an agreement. I consulted my father and got a referral to a skilled lawyer. Thanks to the lawyer's efforts, the divorce with Eric was finally settled. Eric ended up paying a hefty sum in alimony and child support, higher than usual due to his persistent resistance. I intended to make him pay for William's college expenses as well. Later, Ben and Diana's divorce was finalized, and Diana and Charlotte started living with Eric. Their lifestyle changed dramatically, now living under much harsher conditions. Charlotte grew closer to William and began to talk to me more. I was pressured by my parents and relatives to become a model, which was tough. This whole ordeal was shocking, but it cleared the air. Charlotte also kept in touch with Ben, through whom I learned about the aftermath at the in-laws' house. After the incident, Bess, unable to contain her shock, told everything to the neighbors as if she were a tragic heroine. This only served to air the family's dirty laundry, leading to mockery from the neighbors who already disliked the in-laws' house. This hurt Mike and Bess's pride so much that they became recluses and eventually left their home under the cover of night, moving elsewhere. But since we were estranged, it was no longer my concern. William and I now live at my parents' place. He enjoys university life, balancing studies with part-time work and club activities. It seems he has a girlfriend too, and is very happy these days. I opened my own beauty salon, renting a property from my parents, a dream I've had for many years. Charlotte, showing interest in this line of work, asked to be hired part-time. I hired her at William's request, and she's been a great help. After enduring so much pain, everything worked out in the end. I'm genuinely happy, earning a living